Welcome to the first video of the series Starting Before the Starting Line. This is where I get to tell you my experiences of starting life over again, already in debt, no job, no money, and finding myself navigating the legal world after becoming a victim of aggravated assault. Let's get started. Let's start from the beginning. I met my now husband back in 2014 in college. Now, there were definitely rumors going around about him, but I paid them very little heed as he had a seemingly happy girlfriend, and they seemed to be doing okay. We started dating New Year's 2019. I graduated college, and by the end of the year, I want to say October, November, I moved in with him. I will say that I stayed more out of spite. I was told that we were never going to make it and that I was being stupid, and so I said, watch this. And so I stayed a lot longer than I really thought I should have. It came to a head on July 3rd, 2020. We had broken up a few days prior, and it was now time for me to start packing up my stuff. I was going to pack up my stuff, and then my family was going to help me get a U-Haul. I was going to be able to pack it all up and get it into the U-Haul myself, and then have somebody come up so that I could drive my car and then they could drive the U-Haul. Well, that's not exactly how it worked out. While going through and packing up everything, my now husband came into the room and tried talking to me, and I was like, listen, I don't want to talk right now. I don't want to hear you out right now. This is not a great situation. I just need you to leave me alone. And he got upset with that. He started yelling, and he ended up threatening my life. Verbally making that threat. I ran out of the house. At that time, we had Star and Santa. Star being here, and Santa now being over the Rainbow Bridge. But I left, didn't get anything, which scared the bejesus out of me. I called the cops, and we met the cops, and my family came up from the 2-hour drive, and came up to be with me. We then had the law enforcement escort to get into the house and get everything in mine, just throwing it into the truck. My first day of freedom was July 4th, Independence Day. So there were a lot of people in my family, those that cared about me, saying that it was my Independence Day on Independence Day. I started therapy, clearly. And I was doing well with my life. It took a while for me to really start seriously trying to date, and still was getting nowhere. I started getting on TikTok, making my Kate's reading diaries, falling in love with reading all over again through the fabulous world of smut. And while being on TikTok, a person started commenting on my videos. I started allowing them to DM me. We'll go ahead and call this person Mike. Well, after a few months of talking to Mike, I started falling for him. I started really having feelings for him. And so I gave Mike my number. This had been a brand new number after I had moved, after I'd broken up with, let's call him Axel. So this was a brand new number, and I felt somewhat secure, somewhat safe. Well, when I finally got Mike to call, it wasn't Mike. It was Axel. After 4 years, he had waited, watched my videos, got to know the new me, got me to fall for him, and at this point he knew that all he had to do was reel me in. You know, there are times where people that you know really aren't good for you, but you stay because you are afraid of missing them, or you are missing them. And that's what happened. I tried to block him, but I missed talking to this one person basically every single day, sending TikTok videos basically all day. And now I didn't have that anymore. So I unblocked him and continued to talk to him. And we started dating again. Definitely with the knowledge that if he did mistreat me, then I would be leaving and I would not be coming back. It's the end of July. I had been working in the childcare industry for 4 years at that point, and I was never meant to be in childcare. For me, it is way too much stress, way too much anxiety. I give all power and credit to teachers, especially those of the young ones. Young ones, and then 5th and 6th grade. All power to those teachers. Like I said, I wasn't meant to do that. And so I had tried leaving the childcare industry and was working at Waffle House for a little temporary job as I tried to get a new one. It was during this time that my Santa passed away. And because I was really getting paid pennies for the most part from Waffle House. I didn't have enough for the rent for my apartment. So after talking to Axel, we came up with the best solution of me moving in with him 2 hours away. Once we did that, I went forth with the long-made decision of cutting off 90% of my family. There was a lot of emotional abuse and neglect, so it was time. It was time. I got to transfer over from Waffle House to the new city. I was told by Axel and his roommate, we'll call him Maddie. I was told by them that they already had the bills covered. They had already been paying the bills, the two of them. And so I didn't need to worry about that. But if I wanted to use my money to pay for food, then I was more than welcome to. I was working at Waffle House until, I want to say, early September. Axel had made a threat to kick me out, break up, kick me out, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. And so I went off the deep end and found myself in a mental health institution. I was there 3 days. It didn't do anything really for me at that institution. And so I got out very quickly. And of course, he took me back in with open arms. And since I didn't work for those 3 days, I just left the job. After that, there were then some issues. If it wasn't Axel, it was Maddie. But they were starting to say that I wasn't pulling my weight financially around the apartment. And so I started looking for a new job. So I found myself at a daycare because that was the thing that I had most experience with. I found myself with a daycare that was associated with a college there in town. So I started that October 14th. This was after his family had taken me and Axel on a vacation for a week. So when I came back, I immediately got started with training and everything else. The daycare was not great. It was not great. Teachers were in very short supply, as they all are. But they were in very short supply. Admin wasn't really helpful. And the teachers that were there felt like any and all power that they had was stripped away. The school didn't use timeouts. It was very much gentle parenting, even less. And so the kids kind of picked up on that they could do anything and basically get, a little talking to, trying to get them to the point of empathy. And it didn't really work. It did not work. So it brought my mental health down. It did not help that I was also dealing with relationship issues, because at this point Axel had become very much more of an alcoholic, raging alcoholic, and instead of beers, he was now primarily drinking whiskey. The whiskey indeed got him very drunk, and he would become violent at that point. Come on, Star. There's a girl. And so I was having to deal with that. The constant threats, having to walk on eggshells so that we didn't get into arguments, so that wouldn't lead to threats and violence. I really started losing myself. I had planned on leaving the daycare May 23rd, 2025, so that Axel and I could get married on the 24th. I ended up leaving amicably. I want to say it was the 21st, the 20th or 21st. And that was it. I took a month off working, which was not great. And Maddie had been kicked out after a huge fight between him and Axel. The friendship that I had with our next door neighbors was gone, as they took Maddie in. And Axel, the first 6-7 months of 2025, spent more time unemployed than he did employed. And I thought that he had been looking for a job. Turns out I was wrong. Very, very wrong. But we'll get into that later. We got married. The apartment started having huge bug infestation. And so by the beginning of September, I had convinced Axel to let us get a house. I had started working at a restaurant as a host, and I was doing fairly well. I was still putting in other applications to try and find something that would pay a bit more or be something that I would want to do more. But he now had 2 jobs, and so his name is the primary name on the title. Like I said, we moved in, I want to say like September 3rd, and everything was okay. After we had gotten married, he started really showing his narcissistic tendencies, the raging alcoholism, and the unwillingness to change. This became even worse after we had moved into the house. He primarily stayed drunk all the time. Drunk driving, even though I told him not to. His parents, his brother and sister-in-law, and I were all saying, you need to go sober. You need to stop drinking. But did he want to listen? No, because he had control issues, and like I said, started really showing some narcissistic tendencies. I really do think he's a narcissist, even though he has not gotten diagnosed with anything. Hi, Savvy. Not right now. Good boy. I had found out that he was hiding alcohol. He was going out and buying it without me knowing. There was also times where the little bit of alcohol that I had, he would take it. He would secretly take it and drink that as well. And so here I am, still walking on eggshells. I had tried to leave a couple of times at that point. And he would always do something to force me to go back. There were times where he made threats or came and stood up on me, very threateningly. It's always very threatening when somebody's that far away from you. There would be times where he would lie to me, saying that he hadn't drank anything, that he didn't have anything to drink, and yet he ended up having something hidden somewhere. There would be times where he would hold me hostage here in the house. There was no gratitude for everything that I was doing. No support. Mid-September, I left the host job and found another job in childcare. This was at a Montessori daycare. And as far as childcare goes, this was the best setting in the world. However, I was already extremely burnt out from childcare, and dealing with my marriage did not help. And so I had to make the choice, with Axel's blessing, to leave that job mid-October. That was the last job that I had. November came. October 31st, Halloween, was my Santa's birthday. And I know it's been 2 birthdays since he's passed, but he was my soul dog. And we didn't have anything to distract me this year. And so I spent the day really, really grieving. This is important later. November came, and that was supposed to be the first mortgage payment. Did it get made? No. He was already in the negative in his account. And of course, I did not have a job, but at this point, we were starting to look for me to have a job. I started dipping my toes into door dashing. And then it all came to a head after taking on all of this burden on myself, watching him starting to smoke cigarettes again. He was vaping, but smoking cigarettes again. I found out that he had gone and bought alcohol. He had this one cup that he always used, and I saw the brown liquid in there, and I thought, it could be Coke, but something told me to smell it anyway, and it was a very strong odor of alcohol. I immediately started looking for the bottle, and I found it. At this point, it wasn't surprising, but it was still very disappointing, and I was very upset considering how I was doing everything. I was doing all of the housework. I was doing all of the cooking. I was taking care of the dogs. Anytime that I asked him to do anything, he ignored it, said he would, and then wouldn't do it again. Or he would tell me that he would do it in his own time, whether that be today, the next day, a month, a year from now. But I just needed to get off his back and stop nagging him. So I'd found the bottle of liquor and went to confront him, and he at that point was blackout drunk, so there was no real way to try and have a conversation. I knew he had to have gotten the liquor like that day. And so I got into his phone, looked into his banking account, and saw that the liquor store charge was in fact still pending. I told him before I walked away, doesn't matter, because I'm going to go and pour this out. I walked into the kitchen, starting to unscrew the cap, and he rolled out of bed, dropping onto the floor, and ran after me. Just as I was getting to the sink, he pushed me, grabbed the bottle, and cornered me into the kitchen counter there in the kitchen. That's where we really started arguing, yelling. This is where I really started getting mad. Because I told him after everything, because I was crying at that point. I said, I had really been proud of you. I had been bragging on you, saying that you've done so well, and since we didn't have the money for the alcohol, you've been staying sober and doing what you needed to do. And you let me down. Well, of course, he started getting defensive and violent because he was still drunk, showing control issues with his narcissism. And so he started yelling at me. I would start yelling back. He, during this time, raised the bottle to me. I raised the bottle up. I pointed it out. He brought it down, put the bottle into his left hand. He tried to close the oven door on me. This house doesn't have working heat, and so we've had to use the oven as the heater. And so thankfully the oven door was not hot enough to burn my leg, but it did end up closing on my leg. He raised his hand to me, saying if I was wrong about when he went and got the bottle of liquor, that he would hit me upside the head. And then it finally came to a head where his hand went around my neck. Sevi, stop. I pushed him off me, and thankfully with him being drunk, being that level of drunk, because as far as I could tell with the doorbell cameras, he had been drinking at least 2 hours by that point, if not longer. So I pushed him off me. It was kind of like one of those Bop It characters kind of thing. But I finally pushed him a third time, and he landed on his butt in the kitchen floor. I didn't get any keys. I didn't get any shoes. I was in pajama pants, t-shirt, and socks as I left the house with my phone. He started coming after me. Hold on. He started trying to come after me, but saw that I had the phone up to my ear as I hit the road, and knew that I was calling 911. I walked to this gas station that's around the corner from our house, again, only in sock feet. There's like an auto shop at the end of our street, and so there's a lot of glass shards in the yard and no sidewalk. So this was already a very dangerous feat. After I got off the phone with 911, I tried calling his dad and letting him know of everything that happened. And I don't think he was surprised either. He listened to me talk, he listened to me cry as I talked to the officers. They took pictures of my neck and had me fill out the witness statement. Because we had a doorbell camera, I was able to go on later that day and listen to him talk to the officers at the house. He had told the officers that he hadn't been drinking, that he was just tired. He also got caught in lies a couple of times. I am fairly certain that most everything that he said during our relationship was a lie. Besides his legal name and his birthday, I'm fairly certain everything was a lie. Which, again, we'll get into that. He did indeed get arrested. But I do have to give credit to the dogs. They locked him out of the house, and he had no idea that I had hidden a spare key to the house. So he did not have his phone, he did not have his wallet, he did not have his cigarettes, he did not have the keys to the house, he had nothing. Didn't even have his glasses. All he had was his jacket. He got arrested for aggravated assault. His car was the only one I had access to at the time. My car had gotten towed prior to that. It was still at the apartment complex, so it had gotten towed. It didn't work anyway, didn't start, so we were going to try and pay to get it out so that we could sell it, but what ended up happening is I, after trying to leave, had to go back home realizing that I had forgotten his bank card. I went back home, took pictures of any evidence that I could have, including the bottle of liquor. I poured the rest out down the drain, and when I went to throw out the bottle of whiskey, I found out that that wasn't the only bottle that he had gotten. He had gotten one of those big bottles of beer, and that was already gone. I took the cup, took the whiskey bottles, the pictures. I had taken a picture where you could see a very light bruise forming on my neck. I got his glasses, his vape, his phone, his keys, his cigarettes, his wallet into a bag, and I went to the police department. The plan was to talk to the detective and show him all of the evidence, see if they wanted to put that into the file. I didn't know what all was going to happen. All I knew about police and courts was from your TV show dramas or cops or whatever, what have you. The only thing I had really done was speeding. So I went to the detective, showed him everything. He took another picture of my neck. It was a lot harder to see in the white light versus the warm light in my bathroom. But you could still see there was bruising. Before I left the detective's office, I asked the detective if they could make a welfare check on me later that night. I had had visions of using a gun on myself, which was the first time ever. But it made the thought of taking pills a very easy thing to swallow. We have knives in the house, but I can't do that kind of self-harm. Don't know why. But when the detective had heard that, he had told me, why don't we get EMS here? You don't have to go anywhere. You just need to talk to him. I told him, I'm like, I cannot go to an institute. I have my 2 dogs. I cannot go into an institute. I have these 2 dogs that need me to take care of them. I cannot go. And he said, all you gotta do is talk to him. I said, okay. Well, of course, that's not how it went. I do see this as a blessing in disguise, though, for a few reasons. One, I started getting back in contact with the old neighbors. So they were able to come up and take care of the dogs. And like I said, I had a hidden key that nobody knew about except for me, and so I was able to tell them about it so that they could enter the house and take care of the dogs, which they did until I was released. I did indeed go into the institution. While I was there, I started thinking and thought, this is absolutely perfect that he didn't get any of this stuff. I had it. I had his driver's license. I had his birth certificate. I had his social security number. I actually still have all of this stuff. His glasses, his cigarettes, his phone, everything. He does have his phone now. The phone kept going off after I had charged it. There was some kind of alarm that he put on there, and for some reason he had changed the lock code. Instead of it being a PIN number, he had changed it to a pattern. And of course, as you know, once you turn a phone back on, you can't use your fingerprint. You have to do whatever the password is. So alarms kept going off, and I needed as much sleep as I could, and so I put it into the console in the car. I was still trying to do DoorDash, trying to get as much as I could, signing up for schedules, making a schedule, sticking to that schedule, just to get any kind of money. The phone service got shut off, and so I had to stop doing that because I no longer had access to data. And as I was trying to figure that out, this is now this Saturday after Thanksgiving, his family showed up at the door, trying to gain access into the home and get anything and everything that was related to him. They wanted to get the bed, which this is the only bed in the entire home. They wanted to get the bed, they wanted to get his instruments, they wanted to get all of his clothes, and of course they wanted to get the car. I called the police, explained everything, and they said that while his family does not have a right to access the home, since the car was in my husband and his dad's name, because dad was a co-signer, they had a right to take the car. and this set off my mental health again. I really had thought that I was really starting to get my life back together. It was a very poor life, but it was still a life. I was still able to go and get groceries. I was still able to put gas in the car. I was able to go to all these legal appointments. I was able to get bags of dog food. And then it wasn't there anymore. I had lost my only source of income. I had lost access to go anywhere. And it was already bad enough that I had to block his entire family because they had started harassing me as well. We were supposed to have our hearing for protection order December 2nd. That did not happen because Sunday night, after they came and took the car, I was in such a bad state of depression that I, with advice from very good friends, I went back inpatient. I stayed there for a full week this time. Thankfully, the institution that I had been in both prior and this time, and yes, I was in this institution a week and a half within a month. It wasn't a bad place, especially this time when I found out about their fun period, their entertainment period, whatever you want to call it. They had a whole room with rocking chairs, like still the heavy chairs. If you've ever been admitted to an institution, you'll know that the chairs are so heavy to keep you from being able to pick it up and throw it or whatever. Well, they had rocking chairs. They had a piano. They had board games and an arts and craft area down there. They had a TV with access to internet, and so people would usually gravitate toward the TV and just start playing music. Just doing music videos on YouTube. It became the highlight of my day. Going down to that room, having group therapy, and then having 30 minutes to an hour of that fun time. It really became the highlight of my day. Because I'd been there previously, I was able to help a few people as they came in. I had made quite a few more friends this time, being there for a week. Quite a few people at that point knew my story. Because holding it in, bottling up, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything for you. You might as well just be open to it. I got out. I was feeling better. I had my lawyer with legal aid. We were doing okay. And I found out maybe a week later that his first court appearance was December 29th. I'm not sure what happened. Nobody with the prosecution had tried talking to me. I had called and emailed a couple of times, but nobody had talked to me about anything. I was thinking about going to that court date, but as the time drew near, I had way too much anxiety thinking about seeing him for the first time. I'm not sure how it came about, but his bond got dropped from cash only to what's called a surety bond. Basically, this allows the use of paying a percentage and then using a bond company or collateral to get the inmate out. And so he bonded out that night. The anxiety and paranoia after that were horrendous. I started having dreams that centered around him at night. It was not a fun time. I refused to leave the house. I would go out maybe once with the dogs. Thankfully, I had a guy friend, one of the neighbors, who started staying with me. And so he would help a lot, making food, taking the dogs out, especially at night. It had not been fun. I got in touch with my lawyer and told him about everything. I finally got approved for legal aid divorce, not just the order of protection. Thankfully done by the same lawyer, which is great. He had pointed me towards the victim's witness advocate, and so this was, what did I see? 13th, Tuesday, January 13th, I think. Yeah. We went over a few things with the divorce, the things that I was requesting, the things that I was demanding. And then, like I told him about the prosecution, I didn't know anything that was going on, so he led me to the victim's witness advocate. I called up them on January 15th, Thursday, and I made sure to tell them everything that I had thought about him. At this point, I had found his old phone and was able to get into that since it was the same code. And after going through it, I found multiple instances of cheating. Primarily on Grindr. On Halloween alone, there were 28 separate messages. Let me remind you, that was Santa's birthday. I was grieving. That was the only time I was really drinking my head off. And he was over here not comforting me, but messaging 28 different men. I told the advocate everything. I told her I wanted the maximum punishment. I did not want him to have the ability to make a plea deal. I told her he needed to learn his lesson. He needed to learn it. He needed the maximum consequences in order to learn it, or else somebody was going to end up dead. She took a note of all that. His next court appearance was Friday the 16th. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I do know that there is a friend who has had touch with him, and he apparently told her that I had the right to deny a plea deal, and his whole wanting court-ordered marriage counseling, yeah, delusional. The judge basically said it's almost certain that you're getting a divorce, whether you want to or not. So I saw through a lot of his BS. His next court appearance is February 2nd. And I'm hoping and praying that we do end up going to trial by jury. I'm really, really hoping for that, because that'll be my time to get subpoenaed and have a hand in that prosecution. Today, Tuesday, January 2nd, was our order of protection. I did not get a whole lot of sleep. Not for lack of trying, but I had to change my sleep schedule. Like I said, he had appeared in my dreams multiple times, and the only thing that I could find that would help was to change my sleep schedule. So now I go to bed anywhere between 2 and 4 a.m. and I needed to get up this morning and take a shower, clean myself up, be presentable for court. And so I was up at 7 a.m. I had ended up passing out at 5 a.m. Court was at 9. It did not start at 9. I got to talk to my lawyer, ask him a few other questions, remind him of a few things, and then we talked about how the questioning would go. I also pointed out that Axel had driven there by himself, and I still had his license. I'm also fairly certain that he and his family have not thought about car insurance, because I had that canceled. So he was most likely driving with no license and no insurance. My lawyer suggested that I call the police about that. Also with the fact that, from what I can tell, he has an active warrant for failure to appear for a DUI. So, yeah, he's a little screwed. I was shaking basically all this morning. There were times where I felt like I was about to get sick. The only thing that really helped was having my phone and my earbuds. I was blasting K-pop Demon Hunters in my ears and playing games till it was time to go past the gate and sit with my lawyer, because at that point it was better that I didn't have anything. So I had to go and give that to my neighbor, the neighbor from the apartment, and the guy friend. Both of them were basically subpoenaed in the case of needing to testify. Thankfully, they didn't need to. His lawyer was his prosecution lawyer, and told my lawyer that he doesn't really handle civil cases. So he didn't care about this. So he wasn't going to call Axel to the stand. He wasn't doing anything. So the only person that really had to testify was me. And I was shaking violently. I was doing well until his lawyer went up there and was trying to poke holes in every single part of the story, basically saying that I was mad and just immediately started yelling at him when I went to confront him. He also started talking about, wouldn't it be more fair to just do a 1-year order of protection and then possibly renew it at the end of that year? I was asking for the full 10 years that a order of protection could be put on for. I told him no, that besides the fact of his controlling and obsessive behavior, that he waited 4 years to catfish me and reel me in. So 1 year was definitely not going to be enough. The judge did grant the order of protection, not for the full 10 years, which my lawyer said was very understandable. Even though, we were asking for it, he said that getting a 10-year order of protection was very rare. So we have it for 4 years. My lawyer said this is still plenty of time to get myself moved and reestablished and basically disappear from him. Right now, I don't have a working phone number. I'm using one of those online phone number apps. Just to do what little texting I do need to do. With my lawyer, everything is through email. And then with the neighbor, and then a dear friend who came back into my life and has definitely become a sister. They're both on Facebook Messenger. Tonight is my first full night by myself. The guy friend went back into town with the neighbor. He had medical appointments tomorrow, and so to help her with gas, it was decided that it would be easier for everybody for him to just go with her. It hasn't really set in yet for me The last time I was left by myself, it was only for a few hours, and I almost had a panic attack. Today, I have slept on and off all day. I woke up at one point and made a salad, ate it, and then immediately went back to sleep. This is the first time I've actually stayed up for over an hour. An hour or 2 hours. Right now, everything is difficult. He's getting served with the order of protection paperwork. He would have gotten served if he had stuck around like he was supposed to. But he'll be getting served. My lawyer should be hearing from his tomorrow. My lawyer also is facilitating pickup of his necessities, clothing and toiletries only. Everything else is to remain here at the house because that is all divvied up during the divorce. What I am hoping for is that I can get everything into trash bags and put them, say, in the covered carport. With that, I told my lawyer that I did not see a law enforcement escort necessary. However, if he does not agree to that, he would need a escort to come into the house. And given the violent nature and he's wanting to pick up Star while he does so, what's going to have to happen is the guy friend, me, and the 2 dogs need to get out of the house during that time. My lawyer knows that I do not want him getting either dog after this divorce. Sevy was a gift to me while we were dating, and so he is not marital property, so Axel has no right to him. Technically, I don't have a right to Star, but that is something that I am demanding out of the divorce. There has been plenty of evidence of her being traumatized by him, especially considering how much she has changed into such a normal dog after he left. The only thing she's being weird about right now is I've rearranged the bedroom, and now she will only get up on the bed from the dog bed that's right here. I don't know why. But finding out that she was able to do that really helped calm me down. And so thankfully I learned about that last night, so I don't have to worry about that while going in front of a judge today and seeing him for the first time in over 2 months. Like I said, I am demanding Star out of all the property that I don't have a right to. She is the only thing that I am demanding, which my lawyer says that gives me a whole lot of bargaining chips. I am requesting the master suite set, the bed, the dresser that y'all are on, the 2 side tables over here, and then there's a chest of drawers in the closet. the only reason why I'm requesting these is when we moved back August 1st, July 31st, August 1st, my bed was broken beyond repair. So if it was just a bed and not a master suite set, then I would only be requesting the bed. But it's a set. So I am requesting that, but I don't have to have it. The only other thing that I really have a right to is half the profits on the house. Thankfully, we had immediate equity once we moved in. Now there are some damages that he has caused since then, and the previous owner didn't live here. He only bought it to flip it. And so now that we've lived here, we've noticed all these issues. So it may be a bit harder to sell. We are hoping that there is a profit of $20,000, which split equally among us would be $10,000. Again, this I could take or leave. The only thing that I am fully requesting is $2,000 to $3,000 to pay for my storage unit, get everything out of there, and get a U-Haul to move to another state. Hopefully with that $2,000 to $3,000, that will really help me get back up to that starting line, so I can just start all over. But right now there's a lot of stuff that just seems more or less hopeless. So that's where I'm at. Like I said, thankfully that order of protection got granted. Since we're having to serve the protection order papers through his lawyer, hopefully, his lawyer said something about taking care of the divorce case, which they found out that it is indeed certain today. We're hoping that we can serve the divorce papers that way as well, by emailing it to his lawyer and then him emailing back proof of service, received, whatever. So if we can do that, then that would be the best thing. But until then, next court date is February 2nd. And hopefully I can just gather all of his stuff into trash bags and put it outside. That's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. I know this has been a very long video, and I do thank you for staying along with me to hear years of history. The next videos will not be nearly as long, as it'll just be updates in the Starting Before the Starting Line series. But I'll be taking you the rest of the way through the court processes, moving, getting settled in the new state. I'm going to be living with an aunt who has already said she's welcoming both dogs and I into the house. So Axel does not know that this aunt exists, much less where she lives. So that's why I'm staying a little bit ambiguous and vague about all that. But you'll get to follow along as I try and get jobs, go through the legal process, and reestablish. So, thank you all for joining me. I'll see you the next time.